Hey there, I am Paola of PaolaPonceNails.com, and today we are going to be learning common mistakes beginners make with an Efile manicure. So let's start with machine. Do you have the right machine for the type of manicure service that you're doing? Kind of like the right tool for the right job? When you invest in your machine, you should always consider the type of work that you are going to be doing. Are you a beginner? Are you seeing a lot of clients? Are you working on natural nails? Are you working on artificial nails? These are all very important factors when deciding on a machine. I'll tell you off the bat, if you are primarily an acrylic user, you are going to need a high RPM machine that also has high torque. What do I mean by high RPM and high torque? RPM means rotations per minute. Most e-files go up to 35,000 RPM. If you are not sure, or if you cannot get hold of the company and know if it's high torque or not, then don't get it. What happens when you have a low torque machine? As soon as you press the machine onto the nail, that bit or your e-file bit stops working or slows down, or it kind of lags. Okay, that's an indication that your machine has high torque. So what happens if you're doing enhancements that require a lot of finish filing, for example acrylics and hard gel? Then you are going to be left by using your force, so your body, your shoulder, your hand, your fingers here, to press down and get as much e-filing as you need to be doing, rather than letting the machine or the e-file bit do the work for you. So it is very important to have the right machine for the right job. If you are doing natural nails or soak off gel, like in my case, you know this is my specialty, a machine that is 20,000 RPM is perfectly fine, so as long as it still has high torque. And that is because when you are working on the natural nail, like actually touching the natural nail, you actually don't want that bit spinning way much, because you're going to be shaving your natural nail, and no one wants to do that, right? By the same token, you do need a little bit of power to remove gel efficiently. Soak off gel removes a little bit easier, actually a lot easier than hard gel, and especially acrylic. So you don't need that much more rotation, okay? You just need a high torque machine, a high quality machine. Do I recommend any machines? Well, since you've asked, I did provide you with a free resource down in the description box below for you to check out after this video. So again, if you're doing a lot of enhancement, finish filing, you're gonna need high RPM, high torque. Usually, if you're getting a machine that's probably under $100, most of the times that machine is not gonna have high torque, and therefore I would not use it for heavy filing. But if you've done your research and this machine is working for you, then great. But if you're in pain, that's an indication that that machine is not the power that you need, and that now you are using your strength, your body, your force to conduct that speedy e-filing, and you should not do that. And e-file, remember, as I've already said before in a previous video, is a hired employee. You want your hired employee to be taking some of the brunt of the work from you, so that you can feel nice and relaxed, because hey, you hired an employee to do the work for you. Okay, I always say buy the best machine you can afford for the stage of the journey that you are in. So I don't want you buying the $400, $300, maybe not even $200, although that's a great price I think for an e-file. So the next thing is not working at the right speed. Okay, so we've mentioned working on enhancements and natural nails. That's pretty much it. So when you're doing enhancements, you're either doing finish filing, or you're doing removal of those enhancements. And then when you're working on natural nails, you're usually working on prepping the nail, so removing the cuticle off of the nail, and oftentimes also removing the shine with an electric file bit. That is usually not my technique. I do not use any sanding bands. Since I started getting into nails, I am like not scared, although I was kind of cut through with a sanding band, which was really painful and really deep, and it took a while to heal. So maybe I was afraid, but I just never liked that sanding band on my natural nail, because it just really shreds it. And for soak off gel, which is again my specialty, you don't need that. You don't need that shredding in order for the gel to fuse onto the nail and attach really, really good. So guess what? all we do in soak off gel nails is use diamond bit. Yeah, we use our Efile, that's totally fine. And we just prep the nail with a sponge buffer, like a high quality sponge buffer, and that's it. Like all of your adhesion component is in the gel, and now I'm getting geeky and nerdy with my soak off gel knowledge, so let me just stop. Back to the issue at hand. So working on those two, right? Enhancements and natural nails. And we said that enhancements require finish filing and also removal, right? That's usually what you will be using an E-file for. And then on the other hand, you also use an E-file for natural nail prep and sometimes removing like dead skin around the fingers. All right. So when you are doing the enhancement work, whether that's removing or finish filing, you need to be working at a certain speed. That speed is a high speed, especially with removals. So you want to make sure that you're working at high RPM. And I would say high is anywhere from like 15,000, which is usually most E-files middle point, upwards to about 30,000. You usually don't need to crank it all the way up, especially if you're removing like soak off gel. But yeah, at least halfway and then higher if you need to. When you're doing acrylic filing too, I know some of us like sway back and forth, or just one way and pick it up and the other way and pick it up. So they go side to side, right? Is what I'm trying to say here. And so yeah, you do need to work at a little bit of higher speed. I probably would not work at something lower than 15,000. If I am, then I'm going to be contributing to the pressure, which again can contribute to injury or exhaustion of my own muscles here and body, right? So when you're doing the natural nail prep, I like to say quarter of the way is either a good point or a good starting point. Okay, that's all you need. Obviously, if you have a little bit of stubborn cuticle like on the nail plate, then you are going to probably have to work at a high RPM so that you can just shave that cuticle off of the nail plate. If you're working on the skin, you're going to have to crank that up a little bit, so at least halfway, to remove dead skin around the lateral nail folds, so around the nail, and then also towards that eponychium area. So the lateral nail folds here, right around, you sometimes need to remove some of this dead skin, and you can do that at least like halfway of your RPM, whatever your E-file has. And then when you're picking up the eponychium, right, like exfoliating this top area, you can also work at a higher RPM there. Next, mistake number 3 is not working with the proper bit. And what do I mean by the proper bit? Let's start with nail prep, for example. When you are using your nail prep bits, right? So we have such a variety, such an array of cuticle bits. I'm going to show you what I like and what I don't like. And the one that I don't like is not because it's like evil or damaging or terrible. I just find that I don't need it for my scope of work, but also techs that use it don't really know how to use it, and they just get it because everyone else is getting it. Like, I know that's kind of how I first signed up for it. Like, ooh, okay, well, everyone's using these flame bit, so I must need the flame bit, right? And this flame bit here is actually very, very technical. In the sense of like, you need to know why you're using the point and why are you using the belly. That's really important, okay? So I'm going to show you, okay? This is one of my favorites, and I'll talk about it in a second. So this guy here, this is called the flame Russian bit, if I am correct. So the point serves one purpose. You are never going into the nail like this, straight diving into it, like literally with an angle, like diving into the nail to exfoliate this. This is not what this point is meant for. This point is meant for a couple things too. So one is to go underneath the eponychium, to be able to lift the eponychium off of the nail plate. And then when you're up here, you're using the side of the bit to further exfoliate the skin. Okay, so whether you go here, you're using the side of the bit, the belly of the bit to exfoliate. It's also meant to work in both directions. So you probably won't be able to get all of your work done like this, right? This bit, because I've trained in it, you actually need to use in both directions. So when you're here, you're going to use the bit to go this way, right, and get the skin. And you never dig this thing in here. You're going to cause nail lifting. So this nail plate is going to lift from the nail bed, or you can also build what I call like keratinized cuticle. So after a while, it's kind of like if you blend this line, what we call the groove, right, the nail groove here, you're gonna kind of almost like confuse the growth. So your nail, as it's growing, it actually will turn into like a hard piece. This is not it, but it will turn into a hard piece of like cuticle, but it's actually feels like nail, like you can clip it, like it's weird. Okay, I obviously used to make this mistake when I was starting out. So again, when you use this bit is meant to be used to separate the epinicium off of the nail plate, and then using the belly of that bit to exfoliate the skin. You're not using it to dig in here by any means. Please do not do that. You will separate the nail plate from the nail bed. You have like weird things happening on the side of the nail. So that is why you use this bit. Now, is this my favorite bit? No, I've owned it because I'm like, well, maybe sometimes I need it. But for my services, because I work with soak off gel, that is my specialty. But we teach the B method in our course, and the B method is all about being fast. We're about being fast, definitely, but we're also about being safe and efficient while at the same time protecting the integrity of the natural nail. That's the B method. Okay, that's what we teach in our course. This course is like no other. It's not an intensive like, hey, let me show you how you hold your e-file and let me show you what an e-file machine is. No, we're covering those points right now, right here. The course is 5-phase program for nail tech specifically, and I mean specifically, we're picky, specializing in soak off gel or soft gel and natural nail care. If you care about protecting the integrity of the nail, do check out the link in the description box to learn more about that course. All right, so this is what I use, and this is called a cylinder bit. Okay, so it's rounded at the end, and I actually like to prep the nail, and I'll show you with my little my Stalix. This is like a Ukrainian brand, so good, this Stalix brand. All right, let me stop raving. So I like to grab a sharpened pusher, and I like to push back the cuticle, or cuticles on the nail plate. So yes, we can push that back, but especially the epinicium. And at the same time, I'm lifting my epinicium. Do you see that? Ooh, I don't like the feeling. I really don't. But it does create like an efficient manicure and a really clean one. Okay, so then after I do that, I like to come in with my pterygium edge, which you see here. And by the way, both sides, especially from this brand, Stalix, they are sharpened, like manually sharpened. Like, have you ever heard of a pusher being sharpened? Like, yeah. So I don't mind working with a sharpened tool here, but this one personally makes me a little nervous. I know there's people that really enjoy it or like it or feel comfortable, but I just feel like that if I'm not paying attention and not having like a sturdy hand, which sturdy hands, right, kind of lead to a little bit of soreness, you know, because you're holding on, like you don't want to like glide. This makes me a little nervous. It's rotating at 20,000 RPM. It's just going crazy. So I don't mind working with this, obviously, because I can control the pressure here, and this sharpened edge is doing a lot of the work for me, and so is this guy. So I like to use the sharpened pusher, and we are primarily going to be picking the cuticle up, picking it up, right? And then I'm going to come in with my pterygium edge, and then I'm going to like scrape, but gently. I'm literally letting the tool do the work. I'm not putting pressure to scrape, okay? No. Gentle. Remember the B method, which is being efficient, being fast, while protecting the integrity of the natural nail. Okay, that's like my whole mantra there. All right, so there you see, I'm pretty efficient at removing the dead skin that I need to remove. You see that? And then guess what? I've already lifted my epinicium up a little bit. I've kind of opened up the way here. What I like to call this is kind of like your prepper tool, like the tool that comes and sweeps the nail and make sure that when your bit comes in, this guy or whichever one you prefer, but again, I'm just like a big advocate of this thin narrow cylinder. It's just going to ensure that while this one is going, it's not stopping, it's not getting like, it's not bumping over anything, that this area is nice and smooth. And by then, guess what? I'm just letting the tool do all of the work for me while gently also pushing back the epinicium tiny bit And then whatever work I have here, I just literally, I'm gonna go like here. Like, I know you want to see some, right? So I'm going to show you a tiny bit. All right, so here's my e-file. Again, I'm going to avoid that mistake of not working at the right RPM. So I'm going to be on the skin. So that's probably going to be like halfway up the dial for me. Our rotations are turning to me. So I'm working forward. It's coming to me. If you're lefty, then you would work the other way. That's all forward and reverse means. And then see if I'm going to be on the skin. You see, just straight. I can turn it this way. What you never want to do is dig this, even this edge, even though it's rounded, you don't want to dig it in here. You will create that weird keratinized nail and cuticle. Okay, but I'll tell you right now, I'm going to give you like a little secret. I actually take care of my dead skin with a file. Just a board file, whatever file I'm using on the client, I actually give it a second use and use it on that skin. I'm giving you lots of tips and tricks right now, okay? This is what happens when you just jump on camera and you just want to help your fellow community. All right, so then guess what? With this edge, I'm actually just going to push back the cuticle here, the epinicium area. Okay, remember, cuticle is what's on the nail plate, epinicium's what's not, so it's around here. All right, so I would obviously use a little bit more pressure, but I don't want to ruin my manicure. And then just press, and this will cause no damage to that area. And when you're pressing, you're actually not pressing on the nail, and your angle is not like angled at all. Actually, it's pretty parallel, okay, like this. So if you're a beginner, you want to choose the right nail prep tool. Don't just jump into what's popular, what's being offered without any training, especially if it looks slightly weird to you and you're like, why is this bit shaped in this way? Most bits are shaped the way they are because they have a purpose. All right, so what about when you are removing? Let's talk about common mistake with an e-file removable bit. So for example, let's just say ceramic and carbide. Think of ceramic kind of like glass, and think of carbide as metal because it is. Right? So if you use the glass one on a hard product like acrylic, you're gonna go through that ceramic rather quick, okay? Big mistake. I know you're tempted. Maybe you like the look of a ceramic, right? You like that it's like this nice porcelain kind of white, but you're actually going to be needing a carbide tool instead. If you're using this carbide and you're like, well, I'm just going to use my carbide to take the entire enhancement down to the natural nail. Well, guess what, my dear friend? You're also going to take a lot of that nail because carbide tends to be like what I call teethy. So the flutes, what we call flutes properly, actually kind of touches the nail and kind of just takes some way that I almost feel like it grabs onto the nail and then pulls, grabs onto the nail and pull. Obviously, the higher the speed you work at, you won't feel that hold and pull. But ceramic, on the other hand, again, just feels like glass to me, and it glides. And guess what? You don't. I recommend obviously you use a high speed when you're removing, but even when you are not, it still kind of just glides. Like it doesn't feel like it holds and pull, holds and pull. So again, that is another mistake beginners make, not choosing the correct bit. All right, and last but not least, how about shaping? Can we make a mistake when we're trying to shape? Here we have a sanding band and a ceramic bit. I would use the sanding band on your acrylic. That is just going to remove a little bit more smoothly. It's going to allow you to move right into a buffer. That's what the sanding band is going to do. By then also, though, you want to have already made all of your shaping with, let's just say, your acrylic or your hard product before you move on to the sanding band, okay? Now, on the other hand, here I have a ceramic bit. I'll show you. Ceramic bit is my favorite to finish filing. Soft gel, all of that soft, gentle product that we work with. And if you're regular here at the channel, you know, usually it's Japanese gel. I get giddy when I start talking about it. So anyway, so yes, I train my students to use the ceramic bit because it's so gentle and it just like tickles the surface. Sorry, Greg Saul, I'm borrowing that one from you. And it just tickles the surface, and that's what you want to do, okay? And then the sanding band. I don't really use that. I've never really committed to a sanding band. I have sanding bands like a pack of sanding bands. It's not a huge pack, it's literally like a thing like that I've had for like 3-5 years maybe. Like that's how little I use the sanding band. But yeah, I told you, I think I'm scared of them. But this is great for finish filing your acrylic nails, for example. And once you're done the sanding band, you can immediately move into with a sponge buffer, which means you don't have to do any of that finish filing with a hand file. So it's very convenient. Just to recap, using the proper e-file machine with the right power for the right job, using the correct RPM, which means using the right speed for the job at hand. Next, e-file prep bits. Are you using one that you're not familiar with? Are you using one that you have no training in? You don't know why it's shaped a certain way and you just bought it? Okay. Then we have the removal bit. Are you using the most effective removal bit for the type of nails that you are working on or removing, right? And lastly, when it comes to shaping, what bit are you using when you are shaping? Are you using one that's going to work for you, like the sanding bit, which is going to take care of that finish filing for you? Or do you need little touch-ups, little tickles with your ceramic bit? I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.